She's the author of 21 books. So I think 24 books already. Speaker, holistic counselor, none other than Dr. Evette Rose.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Daniel.
Welcome, Dr. Evette. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Absolutely. Daniel, firstly, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever our listeners are right now. I hope that you're doing well. And I hope that you are as excited as me for this episode today. So, I am best well known for helping people to decode messages in their body. So, sometimes when we start to feel stuck in life, sometimes we have a lot of stress, it builds up. Sometimes we don't know how to listen to the body when certain challenges starts to arise, like maybe through pain, maybe it can be tension. It can also just be maybe stomach cramps or a headache. Sometimes it can also even be an ailment. The body is always talking, but the question is more so, are we listening? And that is where I help people to bridge the symptoms in their body and to help them to understand what the body's trying to communicate. Because Daniel, as you know, the body doesn't speak English the way that you and
Yes.
I do. So it can't just sit there and say, hi, I'm having suppressed anxiety here relating to my fear of change while we're going through this big transition. So the body starts to build up the stress, and the stress becomes locked into the body. And as everything with life has a threshold, and so does the body. And then it starts to show up in different ways and symptoms to get our attention.
Dr. Evette Rose, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about mindset and self
Of
improvement.
course.
So, tell us, how do you define mindset and why is it powerful than just skills or talent in determining someone's trajectory?
Absolutely. So, mindset, as we know, normally when we think about mindset, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word mindset, I automatically think, wow, empowerment, let's work on our mind, let's be successful, let's do great together, right? It has a bit of like it automatically makes you feel, oh, it should be about positive thinking, determination. But mindset also involves negative thinking, negative beliefs, negative habits, negative programs. And our mindset is basically made up of our prior life experiences, including how we feel in the here and now. It's made up of our most dominant thoughts, which sometimes can be positive and sometimes that can also be negative. And sometimes what we forget is that this mindset is a very key, important factor in us living our best life. And sometimes we are passively controlled by our mindset, forgetting that we can consciously, actively jump in and start to steer the boat a little bit more in the direction that we would like it to go in. It's like we forget sometimes that we are the captain of our ship. And our mindset can greatly influence which direction our ship is going to head into. And this is how I would answer your question in terms of what is mindset. It can help you to live your best life. It can help you to achieve your goals. It can also cause you to feel that you're living your worst life.
Dr. Vet, what is the most common fixed mindset narrative you hear people tell themselves, and what is the growth mindset alternative to counter it?
That's a great question. And even with myself, I'm speaking here for myself and many, many people that I've worked with, it's that low little self esteem gremlin voice that always comes in when we
Yes.
want to make big changes, when we want to do something in our life. And the challenge now is that self esteem is an end result of how we were treated in the past, how people communicated to us, how people treated us, all that constant feedback is making up this autonomy of what our self-esteem becomes. Because when we are younger, we're children, we look at to our environment, we look at to our peers for constant validation and feedback as to our worth. Is my needs worthy? And can I express myself? Am I allowed to have boundaries? Am I allowed to ask for something? Am I allowed to just be part of the household? All this constant feedback, whether it's conscious or subconscious, from parents and from people in our immediate environment, is making up and adding to how healthy our self image of ourselves are going to end up being. Because that feedback starts to set the barometer of what we think we can and cannot have in life. And we start to live our lives subconsciously according to that feedback. And what's the most frustrating that I observe in this is most people's feedback is coming from their own trauma. It's coming from their own distorted sense of reality. Not that they're, of course, deliberately doing that. I mean, no one wakes up every day thinking, how much can I ruin my life and the life of someone else? We all have our way of projecting and just sometimes just trying to get through the day when things are getting really rough. And but the challenge is that feedback that triggers these knee-jerk responses. The way that some people see the world through their own pain can sometimes be passed down, and it can become someone else's pain in the form of feedback. And then we have these experiences where people give us feedback consciously or subconsciously through their reactions to us in the moment of when we're expressing our needs. And so we have this experience where we feel the impact of how that feedback made us feel. And then on top of that, we start to formulate an opinion on how we feel and how that incident made us feel. And then we start to feel all these negative mixtures of emotions. And then we end up spending the rest of our lives either trying to cope with it, build coping mechanisms around it. And some people feel like, wow, I'm ready to tackle this. I'm going to go head on and I'm going to unpack this and I'm going to address this. And the biggest challenge that I see, to answer your second question, in relationship to that, is fear of change, Daniel.
Mm.
Even though we live our lives a certain way, knowing how harmful it is, knowing how stressful it is, knowing how unhappy it makes us, sometimes we become used to living our life a certain way. And before we know it, it becomes a lifestyle. And a lot of people know, just simply trying to change a lifestyle, it can feel very intimidating, because that lifestyle, the way that we think and feel, the way the people in our environment make us feel, all of that becomes part of what's regulating our nervous system. Even though consciously in our frontal cortex, our mind is telling us this is toxic, this is unhealthy. The nervous system is like, yeah, but I'm used to this. I know how to survive in this. I know how to tap into different coping strategies to deal with this. So we have this split in our dual consciousness and in our experience that runs linear, but a little bit in a distorted way, where we know we want to go left, but the nervous system is, no, I want to go right because that's what I'm familiar with. So it's really learning and understanding, how do we bridge these two parts of ourselves so that they can come back into a place of coherence, and so that the frontal cortex and our mind, conscious mind, where it says, well, how about healthier habits? How about a healthier diet? How about healthier relationships? And the nervous system is like, well, no, I don't want that because I haven't learned how to feel safe in that. The body will always prioritize safety over common logic. And it's really about taking that step back and another step back and another step back, and get back into what is our real true definition of safety. What is it that will really truly make us feel safe versus what is currently making us feel safe? And then helping people to teach them to start to bridge the gap between the two, because that, Daniel, is how you create lasting change.
Lasting change indeed. Very well said, Dr. Evette. Very well said. Beyond the popular buzzword, what does a growth mindset actually look like in a daily practice when facing a real challenge or failure?
Right. So a growth mindset during a challenge for me personally would be is we get so caught up in stress that that is what we start to see behind us, next to us, and in front of us. And when you are in a state of distress, anxiety and stress and pain is all that we see. And I don't know if you have noticed this, Daniel, but when we are in a state of distress, it's really hard to feel solution orientated. It's really hard to sit there and think, okay, well, where are the solutions around me? How can I improve the situation? How can I, how can we bring a positive thought into this? That's the hard part. It's to consciously break through that barrier where we sometimes feel like these negative emotions, it's almost like a landslide, right? It just comes in and it whooshes and it takes you with it. And then instead of strategically in that moment of panic realize, but okay, let's be strategic about this to the, of course, the best of our ability and capacity. Sometimes there's not much that we can do in the moment depending on how much stress or maybe a traumatic event that you experienced. So just keeping that in mind, right? It doesn't always mean that we should immediately take action because for most people it might not immediately be possible. It's important to learn and understand whatever negative emotions we're feeling in that moment is to acknowledge them. The biggest mistake that people make is that they try to suppress them because that takes a lot of energy. And then we need to keep going back into that. Oh my goodness, this is a lot. This is hard. Let's continue to, dive back into dealing with whatever I need to deal with. And this is not, there's nothing constructive about that. We just lose energy. So instead of resisting how we're feeling, is to acknowledge the negative emotions that's there because it causes stress, but let that stress be there because it's the body's way of telling you what it's fearing, what it feels uncertain about. It's feedback. This is all data, it's valuable feedback because that feedback will help you to know and understand what you can and cannot do, or what needs to be addressed or what needs to be corrected. And when we are in that moment, this is very valuable because something that I teach people that really helps, whatever you're feeling in that moment that feels so strong, instead of feeling that tension, instead of pushing it back, instead of resisting it, relax your body, relax your mind, and let the emotions run through it, like run through you. Let the body do what it needs to do. Let it process and feel the emotions. But in that moment, also, imagine that emotions is just running through you and out of you as well. Because when you can allow the emotions to run through you, it's much more likely to release naturally and gently by itself, because when you resist it, you lock it in, and then added stress during the day, it just becomes more and more and more. It's healthier to be in a place of, I allow these negative emotions to run through me. And once you've done that, bring your focus back to your breath. Bring your focus, because that helps people to come back into the present moment. When we get stressed, we often get stuck and we get lost in the future or in the past. And that becomes a really stressful scenario, right? Now we're worrying about something we can't change. Now we're worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. Both realities is this opposite of being constructive right now, which is in the present moment where we can create powerful conscious active change. So we want to come back to the breath, come back into the here and now. And then what really helps people is to remind yourself, why did I start this in the first place? Tap back into your passion and your values in relationship to your goals, what it is that you're trying to achieve with your tasks or with your life. And I find when people start to complete their goals according to their values, according back into their passion, this is when it becomes more enjoyable again. This is when we start to feel powerful and strong and resilient. So these three simple steps is incredibly powerful. And yet they're so simple, Daniel. But what I find frustrating sometimes is that we're so used to struggling that we think that the solution should also be incredibly hard, that we should also suffer towards the solution. And sometimes the solution is actually simplicity. When we're struggling, when we're in a place of pain, when we're in a place of distress, when we're on the opposite mind frame of mental growth, that means that we are overcomplicating things. Things need to be simplified. So I hope that helps. This is something that I've seen, to be incredibly powerful for people.
Yes, definitely, Dr. Yvette. And what are the subtle early warning signs that someone is operating from a negative or limited mindset?
Very good question. So you might start to feel the best one is you feel down. You feel you're not looking forward to the task that you want to do. You don't look forward to the day. You feel that everything is just the same over again and again. And that starts to pull us into a really negative frame of mind because, well, there's not a lot of dopamine being released in that moment. It's the opposite. And the challenge now here, what's happening is that the more we start to think and feel negative about a task or a project or the day or something that we want to do, the more the subconscious mind starts to associate that negative emotion with the action that we want to take, with the day, with people around us, with certain ways of feeling. So before we know it, even just thinking about a project that used to make us happy can instantly make us feel really upset or down or really sad because that subconscious negative biochemical response is now being activated when we think of doing something. So it becomes almost this subconscious self fulfilling prophecy of how we can get dragged and sucked into a really negative place extremely fast. And it's these subtle little emotions, thoughts, sensations that can become part of the problem because they themselves can trigger these negative responses that starts to become a program. It starts to become a habit. Another subtle sign is fatigue, tiredness. You feel like you're starting to look at people around you. Everyone is happy, everyone's doing great, but it's like I can't relate to my environment. I don't really feel the same as what everyone else does. What is everyone else so happy about? So we start to dissociate a little bit more and more, and this causes a ripple effect in relationship to pushing people maybe away subconsciously. We self isolate, and we are biologically designed to co regulate. It's actually really important to be around people, even if you don't know them, even if you don't know them. So that's why when we feel down, we want to isolate. Sometimes it's good to just have that time and energy to yourself just to recharge. But it's just as important to break that and just force yourself, hey, okay, I'm just going to go for a walk in the mall. That's it. I'm going to walk in the mall and just seeing people, just being around people, sitting in a restaurant, having a drink, just having that chitter chatter, the busyness of others around you could already help you to co-regulate, getting back on track, getting that needful connection met in a really healthy and safe way. So there's beautiful ways to gently break these micro patterns, right? And but this is definitely one to come back to you to the question that you asked me. It's very subtle, Daniel. It's so subtle, but my goodness, it can have an incredibly big impact.
Yes, big, big impact to everyone. So, how do you measure progress in mindset, which is often internal and intangible rather than external and metric driven?
So, practically, what needs to happen is repetition. The brain learns through repetition. That's how, I mean, neuroscience have even showed on scans how the neural pathways builds new synaptic pathways and communication channels between one another when we do new activities. But to complete a new activity, which I'm sure you can relate to, and I definitely can, when we feel down, when we feel upset, it feels 10 times harder. So what I do is I try to look, first of all, when I hit my low moments, instead of just focusing first of all on what I need to do, I first look at 5 things that's going right in my life. Then I look at 5 things that I am doing right in my life. And sometimes the 5 things that we're doing right in our life can be something as simple as just feeling okay. I got up, I made my bed, I brushed my teeth, I did that right. Okay, great. And let me tell you, I have had days where I felt so down that that was my five. That was one of my points that I was doing right. Right. So let's be honest. Sometimes we all get to days where we just feel really, really low and really down. And that's normal. That's okay. We all go through that. But it's important to come back to the five things that we're doing right. And then I look at, okay, what do I need to do? And whatever task it is that I know I need to do, and I just feel like I just don't want to do it. And if I don't do it, it will sabotage my projects or it will sabotage my day or my outcome. Okay, so let's look at this task that we need to do. What about this task? Anything about it? What is there, maybe a micro action or added task within that that I normally would like? Let's say you have to go to a meeting and you're like, I just couldn't be bothered. Okay, I get that. What about just being between people and just seeing them as people that you now can connect with? Okay, great. I love connecting with people. Okay, so this is a plus that I now can start to look forward to, even though it's within a situation that I don't really look forward to going or doing. But at least there's something that we can start to break the negative program and patterning around what it is that we have to do. So always see if you can identify at least three positive points of something within a task, no matter how big or small, that you need to do or that you can connect with, that you would like. Simple example. Oh, I have all these emails that I have to respond to. Oh my goodness, this is a lot. I'm exhausted. I'd rather just go have a sleep. I just don't want to do this. You know, when you don't want to do something, suddenly that fatigue just becomes stronger and stronger,
Yeah.
right? So I love typing. Daniel, I love typing. I mean, I'm an author, so go figure, right? I love typing. So I'm thinking, okay, so I have to respond to these emails, but I love typing. Okay, great. So I'm going to take one email. I'm going to see what the challenge is. Okay, let's respond. And then my focus shifts to looking forward to typing. So that micro dopamine hit of, oh, I love typing, we're bringing and sneaking that into an activity where we actually are experiencing a dopamine crash. So you see how we can gently start to reprogram tasks and activities with just really simple micro little actions. Isn't that interesting? It's very simple and small, but if you can keep your focus on the fact that I love typing and not how much I dislike responding to emails, bring your thought back to I like typing. I like typing. Okay, next email. Okay, I get to type now. This is so exciting. Or maybe you are great at problem solving. Okay, great. So I'm going to focus now on being an excellent problem solver. Let's see what is in this email. Where's there a challenge and how can I bring a solution to it? Right? So you really start to bring that positive attitude of a strength that you have of something that you're good at into that activity. Look at what are your strengths in life. Someone might sit there and think, well, that's great, Evette. I'm not good at problem solving. I'm not good at typing. I don't like typing. I hate it, in fact. Okay, great. Well, maybe one of your greatest strengths are to be compassionate. All right, so let's go through these emails. How can you bring that strength of compassion into your responses today? So, see how you tap into things that you're actually good at, things that actually make you feel good while you're in the middle of doing something that you actually have a negative program. Gently
Interesting, Dr. Eva.
break these
Totally.
patterns.
Yes, totally interesting indeed. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting in, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. I'm a book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season. I'm a food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season. My baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in first season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Yvette, if you could leave one our audience with one fundamental principle to guide their entire self improvement journey, what would it be? Dr. Yvette, can you
Oh,
hear
there we
me?
go. Okay, I'm back. I'm
Yes.
back.
So if you could leave our audience with one fundamental principle to guide the entire self improvement journey, what would it be?
To remember that people's feedback of you honestly, it's not your business.
Yeah,
Why?
true.
Why? Because this is just traumatized, filtered projections being projected back at you, especially if it makes you feel bad or negative. Yes, sometimes there can be, positive feedback and criticism that people can give us, but there's always a time for it. It doesn't mean that it has to be all the time, right? Everything needs to be placed into perspective. So, really do question sometimes where people's feedback are coming from towards you, especially if it makes you feel bad. And you know what is the great thing about not being a 3 or 4 year old child anymore? You don't have to accept it.
Yes.
You do not have to accept it. If it makes you feel bad, perfect, reject it.
Dr. Evette Rose, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your books, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely, Daniel. Thank you for that opportunity. And for everyone else, I love to teach just my 1 day workshops, decoding the body's messages. It's a half-day workshop where I actually teach you how to understand and decode messages in the body. It's a workshop that deeply leans on this big book that I have, Metaphysical Anatomy. Daniel, you and I have spoken about this before,
Yes.
remember? We did a
Yes.
great episode on your book 101. So for everyone else, go listen to that episode as well if you haven't. So that workshop is about this, and then I have many other trauma recovery processes and workshops that I also teach, free masterclasses every Wednesday at matmasterclass.com. You can get your free copy because I love Daniel so much. I would love for everyone
Yes.
to
Thank
have a
you.
free copy. Okay, get your free copy of Restoring the Emotional Body at EvetteFreebook.com. It's a free ebook. This book will really help you to learn and understand the messages in your body, how trauma works through you and how it can get stuck, and how to understand what your body is trying to tell you when it is in pain, discomfort, or tension. There's no such thing as your body malfunctioning, it is talking to you.
Talking to you for sure. So listen to it. So again, Dr. Evette Rose, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, and hoping for more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering, advocacy to come. So, Mr. Dr. Evette, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.